Aloha. Welcome back. This is the season premiere 2023 version of the 19th hole live in vivo. We have Conor Coughlin at CoughDFS, Cough_DFS on Twitter. He's our resident whiskey and DFS expert. I guess I am too. I'm Bo McBrayer at Bo_McBigtime. This is the 19th hole live. We are going to cover the 2023 Sony Open in Hawaii at Waialae Country Club. Tune in right now. Oh my goodness. Well, I double clicked the thing real quick, so it's only episode 1, guys. I think we're gonna be okay going forward. Producer extraordinaire, am I right?
What would it be if we weren't screwing something up, right?
And I haven't even had my first sip of whiskey yet.
I was about to say, we're not even drunk yet. This will go off the rails in a hurry.
Yeah. Choo choo. How you doing, Connor?
Good, man. I feel like I haven't seen you in forever. It's been 6 days?
Well, you haven't seen me in forever, but we've been doing the audio only version of each other, which is probably better with our mugs on the screen.
I was gonna say I got a face for radio for sure.
Yeah, we know. the 19th hole live, we're going to cover whiskeys, we're going to cover other spirits along the way, but the main focus of this show is professional golf. We have the PGA Tour staying in Hawaii for another week. We had a big field, first full field cut event of the 23 season at Waialae Country Club for the Sony Open. Connor, let me know how you feel about this course. It is a par 70 track, a little tighter than Kapalua, less cliffs.
Yeah, I mean it's tighter, but I think that this course it's still super gettable. The rough isn't going to mess with anybody too much. To your point, there's a lot less hazardous drop off, and I think it's
scenery.
Yeah, well, that's true too. I think it's a pretty straightforward course, though, for the most part. I mean, this is if you can hit your drive to a spot, and you got a solid approach game. I mean, this is a pretty straightforward course. You got huge green complexes, way higher percentage of hitting greens than most PGA events. It's guys are going to leave themselves long though, so I think like proximity and putting are going to be important here. But all in all, this is just another Bermuda Hawaiian track, and overall just a short course. You're only at about 7,045 yards, so it's not anything crazy.
So, blast from the past. I don't know if you remember this because I mean we're about the same age. But for Nintendo 64, there was a golf video game made for N64 only. It was called Waialae Country Club Golf. And you could use the joystick, and the only course on the game was Waialae Country Club. And I played that game for days on end. So I know this course like the back of my hand just from playing that as a teenager. And it's wild because that precluded Tiger Woods most of the time. It was pretty awesome to play a real PGA Tour course that's been on the PGA Tour schedule since 1965, and it has gone from a par 72 to a par 70. It's easy. This course is, I think, 7th easiest on the entire schedule, scoring average wise. These guys are going to have a good time putting the ball in the hole. Birdies and eagles aplenty. Even the par 5s are extremely gettable, and the par 3s might be the only defense for this course. They're a little bit long on the longer side, but
you can have some issues with wind here. I mean, they're having
trade winds.
But even still, even if the wind kicks up, I think the I guess highest score in recent memory was somewhere around 11, 12 under. So I mean, even with a really aggressive winds, this course is still gettable. I mean, this is a course that I feel like you and I could go play, not from the tips, obviously, but go play this course and still shoot decently. So I don't think there's a whole lot of trickery here.
No. And if anything, I heard a rumor, and I believe it is true, that they have the rough is 3/4 of an inch longer this year compared to last year when the champion was 24 under par. So maybe that causes a little bit more havoc around the greens. I don't think it's going to give them any fits on from the fairway, but maybe you miss a large green complex and it actually penalizes you a little bit more. But yeah, overall, I think the scoring is going to be pretty decently low, between 15 and 20 under par for the finish. Let's run a quick little intro here to our new segment this year. Thanks to, in part, me being hired as a betting consultant for the PGA Tour for betting pros. We're rolling out a new segment called Club Twirls. We're going to cover golf wagering.
Not gonna lie to you, that's the first time I've seen that drop. I want to know where you get those khakis. That's all.
Right?
That's all I took away. I want those khakis, and I want to try and just ram my fat ass into them. Just see what happens.
Yep. It's bursting at the seams. So we're getting a little bit more into golf betting this year because I'm paying closer attention to it with being part of my job now. DFS is still a big part of what I do, but golf betting, we have some really soft lines at this tournament because really nobody knows what the hell is going on apart from two guys from South Korea who are really good, and they seem to be the class of this field. There's a couple other big names in this field, but by and large, the top golfers in the world golf rankings don't come to YLI. It's a who's who of guys that are on the rise, and so you can hit some of these soft lines on top 5 and top 10s and even top 20s with guys that a lot of people haven't heard of, let alone seen them on the leaderboards on Sundays throughout the last couple seasons. Let's start with those betting favorites: Sungjae Im and Tom Kim. Tom Kim's 20 years old, and in the last 2 weeks, he's gone from like, who's that? I mean, I thought he was Ju Young Kim last year. He is. It's the same guy. He just goes by Tom because when he moved to America as a kid, that's what they called him. It's his anglicized first name. So Tom Kim, Sungjae Im, by far the favorites in this field. And as far as what Vegas is implying, they're also the two most expensive guys on DFS when we get there. Sell me on why we should pay up on the betting side for short odds on these two guys.
Well, first, I'm not going to sell you on it because they're way too short for way too much risk. Like, while I think both these guys are good golfers, like those are incredibly short odds for
plus 1,100 for each. That's short.
Yeah, and all of the money is going to Tom Kim. Like, the Sungjae's numbers are starting to climb a little bit. I'm showing them up to 12, 13 in some spots. But yeah, I think the thing with Tom Kim is, and while I really do like him to potentially win this tournament, I think he got a really unproven prospect at this time. I mean, he's a super amazing golfer. Don't get me wrong. The guy's going to have an amazing career, but he's on a hot streak right now. He's a young dude. I just, that's a really low number on a guy that, quite frankly, I don't know that he's got the chops yet. I think he's he's proven he can hang, but there's a lot of pressure and stuff that comes along with being the favorite and all that stuff. So I probably won't sell you on Tom Kim. Sungjae, I probably have slightly more interest in, just because he's been there a little bit longer. He's got a little more experience with some of the pressures. But even him at plus 1,200, I can't do that. Like, there's just way better value down the board.
I mean, look at Jordan Spieth at plus 16 is a better deal to me. Jordan Spieth is a pin-seeking maniac with a good short game, and
Well, not
he's getting
recently.
less. Oh, I mean, but still, 1600. I'd rather take a shot on a guy who's won 10 tournaments on the PGA Tour level rather than a 20-year-old kid who's won 2 events and Sung Jae who's won 5. It's a huge difference in odds and payout, and even the top 5 and top 10 odds are super short. So you're asking these guys who basically I would think have a 1 in 20 to 25 chance of winning this tournament. You're getting paid like it's a 1 in 12 or 1 in 15. It's just not good enough for putting your money down on something that risky.
Yeah, and you look at how they typically finish. I mean, these are guys that are rock solid to be a T20 type of finish, but
Yeah,
I, I mean these two numbers that you're getting on these two guys. I mean, it's almost a foregone conclusion that they think they're going to win this. And
yeah.
I think Tom Kim, between the two, I think Tom Kim is ultimately going to be the better golfer. But if I got to pick one, it's Tom Kim. But to be honest, I'm starting my betting card probably down at Hideki at plus 20.
Yep.
I think that's incredible value for somebody
Defending champ.
and he's like, if you watch Hideki, I mean, the course sets up so perfect for him. This is a guy that has won multiple times. Incredibly gifted golfer. People sleep on him. He does a lot of withdrawing nowadays, and which is always a risk. But I think that 20 number, I think that he's got just as good odds, if not better, to win this tournament. And you're getting a much better number on him. So.
Well, and we always use the term target golf. It's the kind of place. This is the kind of place where even though it's easier, it's a lot like TPC Sawgrass for the Players Championship, where guys that can think their way around the course, put the right number in their hands, and stick it close. Proximity is huge on this course because the greens are so big. If you're sticking yourself with greens and regulation, doesn't mean anything. If you're hitting all the greens but you're 40 feet away, you're not making birdies and you're not even coming close to winning this thing. So guys like Matsuyama, my 2 betting favorites are Russell Henley, who came and lost in the playoff to Matsuyama last year, and Corey Connors, the Canadian, who I despised playing in DFS last year because I always got him wrong. When I played him, he did nothing, and when I didn't play him, he was in contention and scoring tons of DK points. Those 2 guys are both at plus 2,200. I think that is right where I want them. These guys are both in the top 20 in strokes gained approach. That's what I'm looking at on this course. It's strokes gained on approach is a huge figure. It carries a ton of weight for me in my models for DFS and betting. And Matsuyama's up there too. All these guys have the appropriate leverage for me betting them outright all the way down to top 10 because the numbers it's all so much better.
Yeah, and I would go a little bit farther down than where you're at. I'm not a huge fan of Russell Henley. I don't know that he catches. Yeah, I did, like
this guy owns the course.
Yeah, no, I absolutely. We have some track record there, but I think that he's getting a lot of momentum behind him because of past results, not necessarily what he's currently doing. So I kind of like going down to KH Lee, actually, who is being incredibly consistent.
The Panda.
And is a dude that can absolutely score. So I think that's another good number at plus 3,500. At least it's still hanging there in a couple of spots.
Yep,
DK Sportsbook still got it. Yep. But that number is shifting pretty rapidly too. It's as low as plus 2,800 now. So that KH Lee number, I think, is going to continue to slide. So get it if you want it. And then right below that, I actually don't mind Montgomery this week either at the same number. He's actually somebody that a lot of people aren't going to be super familiar with, but Taylor Montgomery's been on quite the tear over the last 24 rounds too. Prolific scorer, excellent from some of the par 3 ranges, decent putter, good approach game, kind of the total package, and somebody that probably you'll get a lot more familiar with over the course of this year. He's a guy that's going to probably make a whole lot of winning rosters in DFS week on week. Scores a lot of DK points too.
And he's an extreme value when we get there.
I think so too. So that's about it, though, as far as what I have for outrights. You could throw a couple of darts at some of these Japanese tour players, but
Yeah, but they haven't even shown us enough on the Asian tour, the DP World Tour, to give me confidence in putting money on them. And still, until they start putting together more and more full field events like this against the top competition, I'm not going to be throwing money out there. I'll play them at DFS because they're cheap and they usually pay off at their value. But as far as betting wise, I'm gonna steer clear at least until I see more. Top fives, I mean, it kind of expands the field out quite a bit more. Top tens, I'm going to throw out my guy from NorCal, Kurt Kitayama. He played here for the very first time. That's why I asked him, had you ever played Waialae before last year when you showed up? And he said, no, that was my first time. And I played against his older brother in high school, and his brother played college golf in Hawaii, but it was at Hilo, which is on the Big Island. So it wasn't like he was going over to Oahu for any reason. And so Kurt played the first time last year at Waialae, and he missed the cut. He shot 70 and 69. A whole group of guys of surprise missed cuts last year. That's why that's kind of getting where we're talking about DFS is the favorite rarely wins this tournament. That's why we're also saying Tom Kim Sung J M at plus 1100. That should scare the living shit out of you if you're betting them, because the favorites almost never win this tournament. And Kurt Kitayama is definitely not a favorite. He's plus 5,500 outright. If you want to throw a quarter or a half unit at that, I'd probably be the only one that did that, because I'm one of the only guys that's heard of him, even though he's been on the PGA for a year. I know him as a person from the same area. We're born in the same town, but I have him at a full unit at plus 1,100 to finish in the top 5 and a plus 500 to finish in the top 10, because those are great long odds for a guy that I know can play this type of course.
So first and foremost, Mr. Kitayama, friend of the show.
Yes.
No disrespect. I definitely am not as high on him this week as you are. I'm probably
Nobody else is. I will stand on this hill.
And dude, there's going to be a lot of weeks where I'm going to be banging the drum right next to you for Kurt Kitayama. But I think there's guys right around him, especially when we're talking about T5s that I like a lot better. And they're two that are probably not doing a whole lot to inspire confidence, but this course sets up really well for him. And it's Gary Woodland at plus 1,100 and Webb Simpson at plus 1,200. There's some definite course comps to courses that both these guys do excellent at. And one of the major comparisons you can draw is Harbor Town, which Webb Simpson is damn near the mayor of. So
he's the betting favorite every year, Harbor Town.
And I don't see enough difference between these two courses to say that Webb Simpson couldn't come out here and just kind of shock everybody as badly as he's been playing.
I think he's dust, man. I think he's dust.
I don't know, man. I'm going to give him a few weeks. I really, truly am, because some of these courses are pretty good course fits for him. And if we come out of this and Webb hasn't done anything, then I'm probably a full fade the rest of the year. But assuming that he does what I think he's going to do, plus 1,200 for a T5, you're probably not going to see that number a whole lot of times this year. And Gary Woodland actually, I think, has a reputation of being a pretty big hitter, pretty aggressive player. And at least over the last 24 rounds, he's proven that he's actually kind of honing target golf. He's had an excellent short game, and his putting's been pretty on par. So I really kind of like Gary Woodland and Webb Simpson, and I think they're going to get slept on just because there's some recency bias. It's what have you done for me lately, and it just haven't been much with the two of them.
I'm gonna put my CPAP back on so I don't snore too loudly on those two. Because, I mean, there's a couple other top 5 guys I'm looking at here. Betting Pros gives me a lot of latitude to put together golf bets. I mean, I'm basically saying I'm running my own bankroll. I'm putting my own bets out there. And last week I profited. Well, last week was amazing because I was in the Discord going, guys, I think I messed up because this was halfway through Sunday's round. Colin Morikawa had a 7-shot lead. And I was in line to make a 25 unit profit in week 1 of the entire season, banked on my first article.
Full fade. Didn't play a single Morikawa lineup, not one. I had several rounds,
and he was my betting favorite. And if not for one of the biggest collapses we've seen in recent memory, and combined with John Rahm just going full scorched earth on the back of Kapalua, this was in the bag for being a huge profit week last week with Morikawa and Tom Kim bets. And thankfully, Morikawa collapsed because there was only a 7.5 unit profit. It was a great week, don't get me wrong, but if I had started with a 25 unit profit in the first tournament on the first article I wrote for him, I might have had some really lofty expectations to fulfill the rest of the year. I don't know that I can hold up to that, but I was a little bit more conservative this week with my units. I did bet 8 units last week, and I bet
don't be just
9 this
your
week.
unit around.
Yeah, but as far as I love Kitayama, but Mark Hubbard is a guy that I've been taking long shots on for a year and a half now, and last year we made all kinds of profit on DFS playing Mark Hubbard, who's perpetually underpriced in DFS, and one of the best ball strikers in the world. If he finds a flat stick that can be worth a darn at this course, he could go full birdie fest, and his proximity is great. He's plus 2,800 for top 5 and plus 1,100 top 10.
I got him plus 35 at DK.
Whew. So he's even getting longer because I set this up on Tuesday, yesterday morning. So his odds are getting longer. So yeah, that's amazing. If he's at 3,500 for top 5, you smash that because he's good enough. And it just blows my mind that nobody's talking about a guy who contended for multiple trophies last year on courses just like this one, where you got target golf, you got guys that can get hot with the putter and make a ton of birdies like Mark Hubbard. It doesn't make any sense that his odds are this long. And I'll take some half unit darts at the top 5, and I'm going a full unit on that plus 1,100 top 10 number.
You know that I'm always a sucker for old Mark Hubbard, but I don't know, man. You may be on that island alone this week, but it is a great number.
That's the feedback I'm getting. Is all of my picks are very suspect compared to the consensus,
which is a great strategy for DFS. I don't know if I'm walking to the window to bet Mark Hubbard. I do like the plus 3,500 on a T5 though. My thinking with that bet though is that Mark Hubbard either wins this outright or he's more like a T10, T20 like that. If Mark Hubbard doesn't finish top 5 very often. Like it's kind of an all or nothing with that guy. So I probably would lean the outright if you're going to sprinkle a little money on Hubbard. But again, to your point, do the outright and the T5, put them together. I mean, if you're pretty sure, at least you can hedge that way.
It's a lotto ticket. All right, I think we've talked our way through the betting pretty well. We're going to be talking about some of these same guys here on the DFS side with no trunk slams. Yeah.
The club is well. This would be a wrestling slam.
And of course, no trunk slams is our DFS segment. Little known fact, that was actually a young Conor Coughlin being tossed in the lake by Goldberg.
I was
the visor gave it away. The visor gave it away.
Back when I had hair.
It was one of those visors with the frosted tips sticking at the top.
Yeah, I just fresh out of a Backstreet Boys concert, just ready to play a quick 18.
Your puka shell necklace.
Yeah, tighter than hell, just strangling myself. Those shells are looking for the ocean.
So, and I'm kind of on the opposite side of you for DFS purposes, where I'm also fading M and Kim for DFS because they're way too chalky, they're too expensive, and I just want to get more exposure to the middle of this pack for DFS. And I think you're going to be more where like, oh, I want to do stars and scrubs, go with the sure things at the top, and then you got some really nice sleepers down the way. But talk to me about exposure to those top two guys, Sung J M and Tom Kim.
So, my biggest thought with the two of them is that I think that they're pretty guaranteed DFS points. So I've been messing around trying to find ways to stack them both in a lineup. It gets pretty ugly. I think the approach I'm going with is I'm gonna start out individual lineups with one of each of them and build a little more through the middle. And going through my modeling too, like I actually kind of landed a lot more middle salary, kind of like what you're saying, as far as what rated out well. But I genuinely think that you have the safest floor with those two. This is just it's not a proven field, right? Like there's a lot of good talented guys in this field, but there's a lot of guys that have the potential to blow up. And I think Tom Kim and Sung J M, I think that they ultimately are probably the two least likely guys, at least in the upper echelon of DFS, that for missing a cut or finishing outside of the top 10. So I just think you're safe with them. So that's what I'm paying
I
for
think
at
we
that
talked
price.
about the same thing last year, and two of our sure things missed the cut. And this is the kind of tournament where the unproven guys come out of nowhere, and the favorites end up shooting a 70 in the first round, and then they get too aggressive in the trade wins, and they shoot a 68 in round two, and the cuts at -4, -5, and you're just screwed. I have a really distinct feeling that the chalk is going to bust something fierce this week, and that's just my fear. Is I am jaded from last year's Sony Open, where all the favorites just missed the cut. It was pretty much like it was a bloodbath.
Yeah, but see, here's the thing. I don't perceive an 18% Sung J M to be ridiculous chalk. Now,
No,
it's
that's actually doable.
yeah, and that's what its calculated ownership is coming in at right now. It's 18.4. So I don't think that that's absurd. And for Corey Connors to be calculated to have higher ownership than Sung J M, there's something not right with that. And to be honest, he's only 1.5%. Corey Connors is only 1.5% less chalky than Tom Kim. So when you look at that, Corey Connors is the DFS darling this week for I can't imagine why.
It's got to be the effect I have on chalk these days, right?
Yeah, but when you look at any decent modeling of Corey Connors, like overall game,
it's okay. It's not anything special.
no, and the guy can't putt. I don't give a shit if he's figured it out here and there. The guy cannot putt a golf ball, and you are gonna have to be able to make putts this week. So
we give Luke List all the crap for being a terrible putter and amazing ball striker. Corey Connors is the Canadian Luke List.
yeah, and to be honest, Luke List, I think if you go historically, probably putts better more often.
Ouch. Yikes.
But so that's kind of where I'm landing. I'm looking at this, I'm looking at the roster ship level, and to be honest, Cam Davis is less than 1% behind Sung J M. It's like Cam Davis and Corey Connors. Now, objectively, I like Cam Davis, but then you got Brian Harmon, who is literally 1% less rostered than Sung J M. And I'm just sitting there going, well, wait a minute now. If I'm going to eat some chalk, I mean, Tom Kim and Sung J M seem a hell of a lot safer than the other three guys I just mentioned.
That's for sure. See, I don't have access to the updated ownership numbers. So you enlightening all of us right now with that changes a lot of things, because I was expecting 25+% for both guys at the top. But I think people are starting to psych themselves out thinking, oh, everybody's going to have those guys. And they're going down to guys that I've been talking about all week, like Corey Connors, and they're just not good enough to be chalking it up for us. Like you said, it's better to spend up a little bit and get a guy who you know is going to have a very high likelihood of contending for the trophy and scoring a ton of DK points. So pivot off of Corey Connors if that holds true. And since they're teeing off tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Pacific and 7 a.m. Hawaiian time, we're getting down to the nitty gritty where that's pretty much what it's going to be. So I just made a switch, and now I'm going to have to figure out what I'm going to do down in the 8s range. Russell Henley, I mean, he's coming in pretty chalky, but the guy scores a ton of birdies. And so I do like him as one of my locks, betting wise, DFS wise. I'm a lot more confident in him at YLI than I am Corey Connors.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with you. I am not in love with either of them, and I'm certainly, like I said, not in love with a 21.5% Corey Connors and a 17.8% Russell Henley. Like I'm just gonna, if I get roasted by one of those two this week, then so be it. But that's way too much risk, way too high a dollar to pay for them, and way too much exposure for me.
Yeah. And you can spin down. This field is pretty deep as far as good value plays. I'm looking at pivoting off of both of those guys in a couple of my large field GPP tournaments, going after another NorCal guy, Mav McNeely at 9,100. Not the best putter. He's not a terrible putter, but that's his weakness of his game. But another guy with a short iron in his hand that's used to West Coast golf. These California guys tend to do really well in Hawaii because it's similar grass, similar weather. Everything just kind of feels familiar. Mav McNeely at 9,100 seems like he would be a good bet to pull himself back together after starting off strong last year on the West Coast swing. And then when things went to the Bermuda grass, East Coast Florida swing, he fell apart. So get my guy back on Kukui and Bent, and I think Mav could be back in play.
Yeah, I mean, we always like Mav. $100 cheaper though. This week I'm doing Taylor Montgomery. Taylor Montgomery is pretty much a carbon copy of what you just said with Mav, with the exception of he's
scoring 12 more DraftKings points a week.
It's funny because at least in my model, the way that I ran it, and I ran it pretty recent. I only did about a 24 round. I normally do 36, 50, somewhere in there. But with the off season and everything, I just wanted as close and recent information as I could get. Taylor Montgomery literally is better than Mav McNeely by like 1-2 places in all the key metrics that I'm looking at. And so I'll save $100 and go down. To your point, I like Mav on different surfaces, like Mav on Bermuda. Not my favorite. His putting is.
You put Mav in Florida, and you're gonna lose.
and Mav, like his putting is you're right. It's pretty good recently. It's not like, and that's surprising. Like he's usually a lot more middling. I've actually got him rating out in the top 5 over the last 24. But with Mav, the biggest issue is he doesn't hit the ball tremendously close consistently. So he's got to be good at putting. And with these green complexes, I just don't know that, Mav saving 40-foot putts over and over again is a sustainable thing. So I'm just going to pay down a little bit and go with Taylor Montgomery, who I think is archetype-wise the same player.
Hey, how do you feel about do you have any other guys in the 9s that you're playing heavily?
I'm actually going to keep rolling with Tom Hoge. I know you give me hell about Tom Hoge every freaking week, but Tom Hoge is playing really well.
Well, once every 9 weeks, he's going to give everybody hell.
And he rates
and then
out
4 weeks, 4 of those 9 weeks, he's going to miss the cut by 10.
I mean, he's number 2 in my model for opportunities gained, number 1 in shots gained par 4, which you're going to need this week, number 1 in the par 3 ranges for shots gained, number 2 in approach, and number 18 in putting. I mean, he's just playing really well. He rates out number 3 overall behind Sung Jae and Tom Kim. So,
and he reminds me of a delicious sandwich. So, I mean, that should stand for something.
So yeah, I'm a Hoagie fan, you know that, and so I'm not going to be off him this week, especially when he's playing well. So I have some Hoagie. I'll have some
Hoagie. I'm not against playing Hoagie, but he's a lot like some of these other guys where as soon as I play Tom Hoagie, he shoots +10 on the first day, and you're like, well, I guess it's not a Hoagie week. And then you're like, Hoagie's dead to me, and then he shoots a 62.
Hey man, he went on the island and got retrieved like 5 different times last season. So we'll start him out early this year.
Yep. So shout out NorCal fan Craig Reith. He's tuning in again. Glad to have you back this season. I'm surprised you're back this season after all the hell we've given you with this drinking game. Every time I mention NorCal, you take a drink, and hopefully we'll get some NorCal PGA golfers on this show in the future so we can really lay it on thick.
We need to get Seth to go back through and tally all the times you say NorCal in our whole season, and then we got to come up with like some penalty per like 10 times you said it or something. We got to come
Oh
up with
man,
something because you got to
I
say
ain't
it
gonna
10
stop.
times.
I'm not gonna stop. It's too fun. Going into the eights, there's a lot of guys I like in the eights. This is just a loaded group of guys that I love on this course. KH Lee is a guy you brought up on the betting side. The Panda, he's a great fit for this course. Unbelievable. He's averaging 89.5 fantasy points a week on DraftKings. That's stupendous. You can't ask for much more from a guy under 9K than a guy averaging almost 90 points a week since the wraparound season started in October. That's incredible. This is the kind of course for him. I'll throw out Cam Davis. I don't like that much because he looked awful on this course last year and missed the cut. He on paper, yeah, Cam Davis loves the pin seeking courses like this, but the way he struggled at Waialae last year just turned me off of him this year. But my favorite guy in the eights is Siwoo Kim because
Oh,
of all
no
the
way. Come on.
of all the Koreans
Mine
that we're
too.
talking about here, of all the South Koreans we're talking about here, you got Sung Jae, you got Tom Kim, you even have the other J Kim down
SH
lower.
Kim.
Yeah, Soo Young Kim. Siwoo is coming out of nowhere this year. I'm calling it. It sounds like you're on board with me. Siwoo models out on this course spectacular, and him coming at 8,200, probably not well owned at all. Tell me about Siwoo Kim here, and why are we not crazy for playing him in DFS this week?
Well, now you're putting me on the spot because I'm still trying to find his roster ship. That's how far I had to scroll down.
Oh, that's excellent. I love when you do that.
8.7 projected ownership.
We can live with that.
So why do I like Siwoo? Siwoo hits the ball close to the pin. Siwoo has a pretty excellent approach game.
Siwoo makes birdies.
And Siwoo, as of late, believe it or not, is in the top 25 for avoiding bogeys as well, which that blew my mind.
Yeah, because he's not known for that.
No.
He's known for hyper aggression, which explains the proximity and birdie numbers, but then it blows up in his face on tougher courses. This isn't one of those tough courses, Connor.
No, it's not. And I think the brilliance for Siwoo this week is he doesn't really have to exert himself too much. The typical landing zones for off the tee are going to be in that 290, 310 range. Shouldn't be a problem for Siwoo, which puts him in a proximity range of 150 to 175, where he's in the top 10. He's also in the top 20 for par threes from 175 to 200 yards, which are most of these par threes. And then, like I said, the other thing is his approach. He's in the top 10. His opportunities gained, which is, again, good looks at shooting under par per hole. He's in the top 5 in this field. So nobody's sticking the ball closer than Siwoo more consistently, at least as of late. And quite frankly, at $8,200, Siwoo is definitely someone who could win this golf tournament because he is
8.5%.
So Siwoo was actually the big star that I had in the 8K. So
ooh, I kind of hate when we agree, but when it's on a guy that's totally random like that, shout out Connor. Shout out.
Starting off right.
I see you.
Panda's my other big one in this range. Panda's going to be a lot chalkier, but very, very, very consistent right now. I'm going to keep rolling with that. And then a name that always burns me over the last 5 years of playing DFS at the level I've been playing it. This guy murders me week on week, but I'm going to rip the Band-Aid off early this season. I'm going to throw some Emiliano Grillo in some lineup.
I knew it. Every time. How many times has Connor been grilled by Grillo?
Mr. Grillo. So a couple of things though, and this is just an eye test, right? Because this isn't going to show up on paper, but Grillo has been and always has been an excellent approach player. That's never been the issue. With Grillo, it's either off the tee gives him fits, or putting well, putting always gives him fits, but sometimes you mix that with off the tee. I think again, this is another guy where off the tee can be mitigated a little bit. You don't have to crush the ball. You just got to put it in play. You can even club down on a lot of these.
Yep.
And then let him do what he does, which is get close to the pin on his approach. And I think really the last 2 times I've seen him out in tournaments, his putting has been markedly improved. I'd go as far as to say that he found something because he was actually making putts. So I think that at that price with some other names around him, especially some people like Andrew Putnam, who's getting a lot of heat behind him for recent play. Denny McCarthy's down there, Matt Kuchar, who's historically done very well at this course and this whole swing. I think Grillo may go a little under-owned at the end of the week, and so I think you could do worse, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, I just can't do it myself, but I see where you're coming from. I put Grillo way behind some of these guys that are in the high 7s, so I'd rather kind of spend down and then have more money for my top 9K and above guys in that range, because that low 8s group is pretty uninspiring if you ask me. Other than Siwoo, I'm not gonna be venturing in those woods very often in my lineups. High 7s, pretty solid. You mentioned McCarthy, Kuchar, Smalley, Harris English. I mean, Kurt Kitayama's there at 77. I think that's an appropriate price for him. I'll have a good 40-50% exposure because I'm a huge fan. He's top 10, top 14 in strokes gained on approach since the wraparound season began. Strokes gained around the green, he's been 14th since the wraparound season began. He's a ball striker, and it's the kind of course familiarity with the West Coast golfers. It's just, for some reason, the California guys just do well here. And I like Kurt Kitayama this week in DFS because I think the guy can, and when he gets hot, we've seen it. We've seen Kurt Kitayama get hot, and everybody was like, "Oh, it's we have John Rahm and Jordan Spieth, and coming up in 3rd place is Kurt Kitayama," and everybody goes, "Who?" And that's how it is. Is Kurt Kitayama will languish down, barely making half the cuts on tour, but every once in a while something just clicks with him, and he just goes on a birdie barrage. And I think this is the type of course where if something clicks for Kurt Kitayama, he could win this damn thing.
I'm not. So like I said, not this week for me on Kurt Kitayama. I will play him a lot this season. There's a lot of things to love about him. And it seems to be a great guy. So he's somebody that I want to be on board cheering for week in, week out. But one thing I will add to your argument actually is that over the last 24 rounds, he's number 8 in this field for bogey avoidance, which is, I think, kind of a big deal in this particular field. You've got to score, but you've also got to avoid bogeys here, just because the difficulty of this course is not that great. So if you're
margin for error,
yeah, you've got to be saving every single stroke. You can't be giving them back. So I do think that that's definitely something. He's also in the top 10 for par 4 scoring, and he's number 4 in opportunities gained, just in front of our boy Siwoo. So there's a lot.
And it's not his week, though. It's not his week.
It's not, and I'll tell you why it's not. because some of the key proximity ranges I'm looking for, he's just not that great. So like he's in the like the middle third of the field in a lot of it, and so I think it's asking for him to do a lot of things that he's maybe middling at best at.
So I looked at that and I saw the same thing, but I also saw that he's top 20 in driving distance and length overall. He's a bomber. And so he might be in those shorter wedge ranges from 1 to 120. This guy's nails. And so that's kind of why I kind of gravitated away from the 150 group, because a lot of these normal range hitters are going to be hitting short irons, but not wedges into these par 4s. And Kurt Kitayama is going to be hitting wedge, 9-iron, punch 8s under the trade winds, where his length can be an advantage. There's not a lot of bombers in this field that I'm seeing. We have a couple guys that hit a ball far, but I mean, not for taking advantage of par 5s, because that's not this type of not the type of course here. but getting a shorter club in your hand on a par 4 to take advantage of proximity, that's kind of where I kind of leaned there. So it's not just homerism. I do the numbers too, man.
No, and I don't want to beat the dead horse because there's like 4 other guys I want to talk about in here. Like I do not think you're a crazy person for playing Kurt Kitayama this week. Like I think he is a good play.
It's the other stuff, isn't it?
He's just not going to make my roster. Just because I'm not sold that he's going to be in those ranges you're talking about. Like
okay.
And so, anyways, moving away from him. Alex Smalley is somebody that I'm interested in. Definitely having quite a little bit of a run right now. He was 11th at Butterfield. He was 4th at the Houston Open, 5th at the RSM Classic. So he's on a bit of a run. What the hell was that?
Rosie likes Smalley too.
And a couple of things that I'll say about him is he really doesn't have a whole lot of holes in his game. It's just whether he shows up and puts it all together. He's a pretty damn good putter. His off the tee game, as far as strokes gained off the tee is concerned, which is what we're kind of looking at this week, pretty damn good. You know, over his last 5, he's gaining on average 6 strokes around. So, I mean, this is not a scrub by any means. He's somebody that has competed at a pretty good level in years past. So I like that play. And then getting down, I already touched on it, but I will have a fair amount of Gary Woodland. Like I said, opportunities gained, he's checking the box. Off the tee, he's actually checking the box. Great in the key proximity ranges that I'm looking at. His approach game is right in the middle of the field. If there's anything that
I'm worried about Woodland's recent form, though.
I am. But I think the difference between Gary Woodland and the next guy I'm going to talk about with Webb Simpson is these are 2 world-class golfers. Like these are, if you look at the guys around them, while they're excellent players, Gary Woodland and Webb Simpson are in a different class of golfer. And
they've been there before.
I'm gonna be early on those 2 because I think they have a bounce back season. I really, really do. I think Webb Simpson gets right here, and I would definitely be confident to say that he'll be in at least the top 10. So those are probably the 2 that I'm going to play here. Gary Woodland is somebody that I think could, honest to God, win the tournament. He's got the chops to do it. So.
Yeah, I mean, as far as guys down here that have been there before and have shown us championship winning golf, those are the 2 that stand out. Chris Kirk intrigues me in this group because he's played well at Sony before. West Coast in general, West Coast swing guys are always in play here. For me, I like Hayden Buckley a little bit. For whatever reason, Hayden Buckley's popping up, and I can't stand to watch the guy play golf because every time I watch him, it's like he's cursed. But Hayden Buckley like pops up in the top 5 at every metric I'm looking at, and it bothers me because I don't like playing Hayden Buckley in DFS. But Hayden Buckley's playing extremely good golf right now, and he's just there. What are we doing with Hayden Buckley this week?
At 12% rostership, I'm probably not.
Yeah, see, that's too much.
Probably not doing.
Thank you for telling me why I shouldn't play Hayden Buckley, because everybody else who has an algorithm is seeing the same things we are, and they're not going to think, you know what, that's a good play. They're going to also think, oh man, that really sucked that the chalk busted on Hayden freaking Buckley.
100%.
Thank you for saving me from that decision.
100% what I thought when I looked at the roster ship projections. I'm just like, absolutely not. Like, he's rating out great, but no, absolutely not. I'm not joining that many of my friends and taking a bath on Hayden Buckley. I will take a very short stroll down from him though to I just lost it too. Will Gordon, who, if you look at their stats, is actually statistically rating out better over a longer span of time in almost every single metric. He is the exact same price, and he is 6.2 projected roster.
There you go. That's what we call a pivot in the business.
So if you like the archetype of Hayden Buckley, you're gonna love the archetype of Will Gordon because they're pretty much the same dude. So that's the route I'm going actually in that same range. I'll dip down, or not dip down, but I'll just take the ownership relief and go down to Will Gordon.
That's a good call. Yeah, I don't see anything else in the mid and low sevens that I'm in love with, but at 7 flat, we just mentioned SY Kim. He's definitely in play for me. Just by merit of points per dollar in DraftKings, 7 flat. Probably nobody's going to have the dude, but I want some pretty nice little paychecks at the end of last season playing SY Kim. Nobody's heard of the guy. He plays on the DP World Tour most of the time, but this guy's on his way. Like a lot of things we said about Tom Kim last year leading into the season, we're going to be saying a lot of the same things about slightly older Si Young Kim. And I think this is these South Korean golfers already took over the LPGA Tour. This movement is not going to stop on the PGA Tour. These guys are extremely gifted golfers. And as they start to get more accustomed to tougher tracks that they have on PGA Tour compared to the World Tour, we're going to see more of these guys pop up on the leaderboard. And I think that it's a little too early to say that you shouldn't play SY Kim on this slate, because at 7K there's not much out there, and there's a whole bunch of darts that even I've never heard of in this field that you could drown your sorrows in betting world, but on top 20 bets. But I'm not gonna do that for DFS. I want to get guys that have a little bit of run to them. Is there somebody down here that I can trust as much?
No, we're coming up against our other show at 9:30, but I was going to say there are two that I'll add down there. I'm with you on the other Kim.
SY.
SY. So no, I love him. You and I were both all over him, especially towards the tail end of the season. So I'm going to keep rolling with him. Grayson Sigg is rating out number 12 overall in my model. I won't beat the dead horse on what those metrics are, but Grayson Sigg. And then Russell Knox, believe it or not, is pretty excellent in approach and putting.
He's a sculpt.
Russell Knox. So and if I know another thing about Russell Knox also can play in the wind fairly effectively. So
he's from Scotland. What do you expect?
So I have a few rules. When it's windy and Russell Knox is in the field, I usually play him. So I'll have some bits of him. And then I'll go right into the 6Ks, and then we can get out of here too. But Adam Long rates out 25th in my model at 6,900. Excellent putter of the golf ball, good at bogey avoidance, and pretty damn decent at some of the key proximities that I identified as well. So 6,900 Adam Long. Kazuki Higa, who I believe is like 68th in the one world golf rankings.
Wow. So
just somebody who is on the world tour and the Asian tour that you're not going to know very much about, but has won a couple of tournaments this year, $6,900. He's going to rate out dog piss poor because he doesn't play PGA events very often, but definitely worth a few darts. And then Chesson Hadley, believe it or not, over the last 24 rounds is number 12 in approach, number 16 in putting, number 20 in opportunity gained, and number 4 on the key par 3 scoring metrics we looked at. So it's really gross. Probably the only time all year that you're going to hear me say Chesson Hadley at 6,600 is you could do worse. But you truly could in this field. So, and then the last one I just got to throw it in because my boy's getting some steam is Cole Hammer. Cole Hammer, I was pretty hot to trot on tail end of last year. He's put up a couple of 3 good finishes in a row. And I'm going to be early to the party. Not very heavy ownership there. Probably maybe 2 lineups I'll have him in, but I am going to be able to take a victory lap on my boy Cole Hammer at some point this year.
Whew. Well, another note.
Plays?
Yeah, not really. I'm surprised you didn't mention your boy from last year, Austin Smotherman, but he's playing horrible golf lately. He rates out well on this course, but
Sounds like
as
you should
far
be the heir to a frickin' jelly dynasty.
Austin Smotherman. Yeah, it's kind of gross down here. It's a full field event, but it's also one that's not filled in with a bunch of top guys. So a lot of these guys are getting opportunities for a big paycheck. Higa, I agree with. That's a really strong play at the 6,900. I can go down to Chess and Hadley. Gross. That's disgusting. I won't stamp that. Don't do that.
God, dude, if I'm paying 6,600 for somebody, like the chances are my lineup is a boomer bust. That's how Chess
Right,
and Hadley
yeah.
finds his way in there.
I'll throw some darts at Peter Malnati at 64, but I'm with me living in that nines range with fading the chalk at the top. I think I don't think I'll have to venture down to those depths very often. Hopefully.
That's what I'm hoping to. Well, we'll start the show off with this next week, but what are you drinking tonight, Bo?
We're going value. This is a value type week. Sony Open. Don't get overexposed to when you don't have to. Is half the golfers nobody's ever heard of. But we're going with the sub $20 bottle, Wild Turkey 101. This is a $15 bottle at your grocery store. I believe you have something similar that's great pour for the price. Evan Williams, BIB. Bottled and Bond is hard to find, but that one just seems to hit the spot for what, $16?
It's super smooth. It's got a really nice finish to it. For being
That's my camping whiskey. I bring that exact bottle to camping.
$14.99 most places.
Oh my God.
100 proof, man. And I don't know if anybody's noticed, but I haven't not so much as a drop of water in this the whole night, just sipping it. No. It drinks so smooth.
It's so perfect for the price.
Underrated. Both of these are. Wild Turkey is so solid.
Solid as a rock. Well, I mean, let's run it out of here. Yeah, we only screwed up at least once. I don't think we screwed up more than 5 times in the show, though. I think we got 2 or 3 shout out NorCals. That makes 4.
Yeah, we'll try and get the intro in next week.
Yeah, I'm gonna hit the outro one time so it doesn't double click like we did the intro. Thank you for joining us on the 19th. Yeah. Thank you for joining the 19th hole live. Catch us again next Tuesday night. That's gonna be our regular time at 8:30 Eastern time. Thank you again for joining us, and get to cashing.